The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners, a special Christmas episode. We're only a few days away from the big day itself, and I've got a fantastic guest, my final live interview of 2022. So this is my 60th live interview of the year, my 82nd podcast of the year, and episode 275. So quite a few milestones there, but it doesn't compare to the guest that I have today. One of the most exciting up-and-coming wrestlers on the UK scene, none other than Aluna Blue. Aluna, we're all blue for you today. How are you doing? We're in a blue mood. We're in a Christmassy mood. So Merry Christmas to you. How are you doing?
Merry Christmas to you too. I'm very well, thank you. Yes, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. As I said off air, getting over a cold, but I'm doing fine, fighting fit, and looking forward to this 60th interview, the final interview of the year. Then I can have a bit of a break. But stay till the end of this this episode with Aluna Blue, because at the very end, I will be announcing my entire lineup for January 2023, and some very exciting guests there. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. But if you want to get in touch with the show, if you want to send Aluna Blue a question about a fantastic career so far, a wonderful 2022, and what the future may have in store for Aluna Blue, please get in touch. Send your questions through to us using your chosen device, and we'll do our very best to bring them up on screen and to answer them during the course of this interview. But first of all, Aluna, I've got to ask you, this past weekend, it's your last wrestling matches of the year, I understand. Yes. So you were busy Saturday, you were busy Sunday, and you're even busy Monday at a training seminar. Yeah. So tell us about the last few days, or certainly the weekend that's just passed, because it was a busy final weekend to cap off what was a brilliant year for you.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it was a busy weekend. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, all wrestling or doing training. But you know, it was the perfect way to end off a very busy but very exciting year. Definitely.
Absolutely. And I've got a few pictures to bring up here. You can add a little bit of context to some of these, but this was your match on Saturday for Reach. And tell us a bit about that, because I know that you like to wrestle all genders, male and female, and here you were on Saturday for Reach doing exactly that.
Yes. So I was against Danny Boyd Johnson on Saturday night for Reach Wrestling down in Tavistock, and we had fun. You know, it was an intergender match. We were on first, and we just wanted to go out there and, you know, open the show, have a lot of fun. I know Danny from previous shows, but I've never actually wrestled him before. And we just went in with the idea of, you know, let's just have as much fun with this as possible. And that's exactly what we did.
Absolutely. And then the following day, Sunday, No Mercy Wrestling in South Wales, one of my favourite promotions, and a fantastic year they've had. There you are on the poster with the spectacular one, Charles Crowley, and your opponent just at the bottom there, Aurora Tevez. I don't know, have you faced Aurora before? Because you're from different parts of the country, aren't you?
Yes. So we've never faced each other previously. This was our first meeting. Well, like you said, we're on kind of slightly different circuits because we're on in different areas of the country. But again, you know, we had a lot of fun. I'm 5'2". I'm pretty short. It's quite unusual for me to wrestle someone who is shorter than me.
Oh, okay.
And I've met Aurora before, so I knew that she was shorter than me. And it was great because normally I don't get to kind of do sort of big moves or power moves, or but I actually got her up on my shoulders, and I was like, yes. This is great. I don't normally get to do that. But we had a really good, you know, fun match. It was cold in the venue though. And my very good friend, Mr. Blue Radical, the photographer, he took a photo of me in my onesie because, you know, I wore the onesie to the show because it was so cold.
Brilliant. And I was at that same venue probably a month or so ago, and I remember parking my car along the side of the venue up
Yeah.
a kind of
the hill.
a hill
Yes, it's
about
like that.
And I was worried that it wouldn't actually be there after the event, after the show, and I got back to the car, but it was. So all credit to.
I nearly lost my suitcase down the hill. I let go of it. Big mistake.
Wow, it's unbelievable because we drove past the venue just to try and find it, and we saw kind of it was just a massive drop off. We thought we got a park down there. That's crazy. And then of course Monday you had this fine gentleman, wrestling legend James Mason, at your training academy, New Wave Wrestling Academy, of course, your training home, your training school. You've had many kind of expert speakers and top pros visit through the New Wave Academy doors in 2022. James Mason, I'd say, big part of UK wrestling history. That must have been a real honour and a privilege to sit under James's learning tree for them few hours on Monday.
Oh, definitely. And I've known James for a while now. I've met him at quite a few shows. I've been on the same shows as him. But to be able to learn from him, and I learn from him anyway, watching his matches on shows, but to be able to have a seminar with him was, fantastic. And he's given me some fantastic feedback to take away for next year. And just also to be around lots of other trainees from different schools as well who came to the seminar on Monday. That was really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you've said on your socials recently, Aluna, that 2022 has been the first full year in the business. So I know that you've been training and maybe having a few shows in prior years, and certainly 2021. But you credit 2022 as being your first full proper year in the business, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. So I did have a couple of matches last year. Just before Christmas, I was very lucky to wrestle Lee Hunter last year. I wrestled LA Taylor for the first time last year as well. But this year has been more than I ever thought it could be. For my first year on the circuit, it's been absolutely incredible. And every single promoter that's booked me and every fan that's come to watch, it's just been amazing. It's been more than I could have ever asked for, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will be taking a deep dive into your training, your career, your love for pro wrestling. And I know when we last met, it probably would have been at the Tram Shed in Cardiff, probably before Progress in the Tram Shed. And you said you've got a very interesting story to tell about how you became a wrestling fan or how you got into wrestling. It's not the conventional or ordinary way that many people find wrestling or become a fan of wrestling. So we're going to talk all about that because I'm looking forward to finding out how you became a fan or how you got involved in the very first instance. But with this being a special Christmas edition of Wrestling with Johners, obviously we're only a few days away from the big day itself. What do you love most about Christmas? For myself, it's certainly being around the family, the food, maybe watching a film or playing some games, and obviously the presents. But what about yourself? What do you love most about Christmas, Aluna?
I think for me, it's probably very similar, having the time to spend with family and friends, eating some, slightly more naughty food that you probably wouldn't eat the rest of the year. That's lovely. And obviously to not have to, go to work in the real world. That's also very nice. I'm very similar to you. I've got quite a few days off over Christmas, which is lovely. I've booked some holiday. So I'm going to spend some time with family and friends and eating and sleeping and catching up with life outside of wrestling, which is going to be really nice because I haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, and like I said to you off air, this is my last live podcast for a few days until certainly the 3rd of January, and we'll talk more about who that guest will be a bit later on. But a bit of time to unwind, put the laptop down, and just like I say, pig out on some unhealthy food and watch loads of Christmassy films. But now, being a wrestling fan such as yourself, and as am I, are you hoping for any wrestling-related gifts this year? Any T-shirts that you have your eye on? Any figures? Any wrestling toys that you're going to be asking Father Christmas for this year?
So I'm not really one for wrestling figures. I used to have quite a few of the Funko Pops, the figures with those. I used to have a replica belt as well. but I'm quite a fan of t-shirts. I do like getting other wrestlers merch, supporting other independent wrestlers and promotions. So I do have quite a nice growing collection of independent wrestling t-shirts now. So some more of those would be brilliant.
Absolutely. And like I say, I can't wait for this Christmas. I really, really can't. So I have asked for a few wrestling related gifts. We'll have to see if any of them actually come to fruition.
Fingers crossed.
Absolutely. Well, when you think about the year that you've had and 2022 for Aluna Blue, if somebody had told you at the beginning of the year that this is the year that you're going to have, these are the debuts you're going to make, the promotions you're going to work for, the talent you're going to work, and all the fun you were going to have in the next 12 months, would you have believed them?
No.
a great year, a fantastic
Absolutely
year for sure. Not. In a nutshell, if you can describe how the last 12 months has been for yourself, or how 2022 has been for Aluna Blue, how would you sum it up?
I think for me, it's been a massive. The only way I can describe it is a massive learning opportunity. I've been extremely fortunate not just to wrestle on shows, but also crew lots of shows as well. So if I'm not working on a show as a wrestler, I will normally go and find a show to crew, just because I enjoy being around, the world of professional wrestling so much. And I've been very fortunate this year to be able to crew for Progress and TNT and Rev Pro. And I will go to a show and I will, I'll stand on merch or I'll sell raffle tickets. I just love being around it. Setting the ring up and taking it down at the end. There are lots of people who have, I guess they've really, it's lovely to see other wrestlers appreciating you when you're part of that crew team. It doesn't always happen, but 99% of the time, wrestlers will come up and they'll shake your hand at the end of the show and they'll go, oh, thank you so much for helping today. And some of the people that have shaken my hand and said, oh, thank you so much for crewing, it's amazing. It really is amazing. So I think that's, it's not just the wrestling side of it that means a lot. It's also the crewing opportunities and just being around professional wrestling in general has been amazing.
Yeah, and I think I've bumped into you a few times at shows whilst you've been part of the crew. Certainly Progress, TNT, Slam Masters as well, I believe, earlier on in the year. And we're going to talk about your wrestling and your training, but whilst you're crewing at these shows, I'm guessing that you're watching all the action, you're soaking it all in, you're learning from the talents, and you're kind of taking bits here and there. Another great learning opportunity, I'm guessing.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Sometimes depending on what role in the crew you have, you've got to be sort of on crowd control and make sure that everybody's safe and make sure everyone's okay and, reporting any safeguarding issues and things like that. But if you haven't got one of those roles, it is amazing just to watch the show and kind of enjoy the show as a fan. But at the same time, I've been very fortunate now to be around a lot of wrestling this year. I'm starting to know more and more people on the circuit and consider a lot of people as really good friends now. And, to watch your mates wrestle at, such a high level and put on such amazing shows it is so nice to see. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have had a few people get in touch already during this live broadcast. Okay. I'll do my best to read out the questions during the course of this interview. But please keep sending your questions in. Please keep sending them in, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the course of this live interview with Aluna Blue. But the first time we bumped into each other was actually in my hometown of Westbury at the Venom nightclub for Immortal Wrestling. Good friend of mine, Jay White, who's probably watching this. Hi, Jay. But I was just there watching a Zach Knight training seminar. You came up to me and said hi. So we had a little bit of a chat. And that was the first time that I had the chance to see you work. And we obviously did a backstage interview after your match. But that was back in April. And I think you was just starting to kind of get a little bit of attraction on the UK scene. But you was just coming onto my radar as well at that same point. But that night you had a triple threat match for the Immortal Women's Championship, didn't you? Against legend of the business, Nightshade, and I think it was Kimura. But tell us a bit about that night, if you remember, because being in there with a legend such as Nightshade, fairly early on into your 2022 run. That must have been a great experience for you on many different levels.
Oh, definitely. It was a really, I think it was, I remember saying to Nightshade at the time, it was my first triple threat match that I'd done as well. So that was a completely new experience.
Wow.
I'd only ever had singles matches before. I think I'd had a very limited number of tags. But yeah, that was my first triple threat match that I'd done at the time. And it was amazing to get to work with her and to work with Karama as well. She's such a professional, and both the girls, obviously, they're absolutely stunning. And to be able to get in the ring with them and have a triple threat match in such a beautiful venue as well. The venue's gorgeous. The crowd were really loud for us. That's all you can ask for, really. It was brilliant. We definitely had fun.
Yeah, definitely. I remember you telling me before we opened the doors to the public that was probably only about your 14th or 15th match in total. So still very much kind of a learning curve going on for you, even in April of this year. But then it wasn't too much further in the year that you became a trainee of New Wave Academy, New Wave Training Academy in South Wales. Tell us about that, because in my opinion, having kind of done my research on you and watched a lot of your work this year, since you've been training with them, a lot more opportunities have opened up to you. And like I say, you seem to be a lot more present on the UK scene, certainly in the Southwest and South Wales.
Yeah, so I joined New Wave in probably around about June or July time. I was going to a couple of their sessions when they were still at the Cathays Community Centre, the bingo hall. And then they moved to a new unit, Flawless Combat Club in Newport. So we share it with the martial arts team that are there. They've got a ring set up permanently. And I think the amazing thing for me and kind of the reason why I decided to train at New Wave is a lot of the training team, and to be honest, a lot of the team who are trainees themselves are people that I started watching as a fan. So we can go into that a little bit later. But me to walk into the room and the training team, Wild Boar and Danny Jones, and obviously you've got Brendan White, and Nico Angelo helps out with training, and Danny Luna. To be trained by people like that it's second to none. And the scene in South Wales and Wales in general at the moment is absolutely on fire, and it's only going to get better. But I think New Wave is such a safe kind of space to be as a trainee wrestler and as a wrestler on the circuit. And everyone is so encouraging and enthusiastic, and they want to teach you in the right way. I couldn't ask for anything more, really. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring up a picture, I think possibly from this past Monday, the James Mason training seminar. And there's a lot of talent that I'm familiar with. Obviously, there's Brendan White and one or two others. But like I say, this is obviously the hungry crop of New Wave recruits and academy wrestlers that are coming through, that's going to be taking South Wales and the UK by storm in years to come. But you're quite right. And one of my points I was going to bring up, Aluna, was, the wrestling scene in South Wales. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's one of the hottest wrestling scenes in the 100%. UK right now. And like I say, you look at some of the talent that's coming through and yourself training and performing in South Wales. It's quite an exciting crop of talent to be a part of, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. A lot of the wrestlers that work with us at New Wave are out on the circuit regularly. They're working for the likes of Rev Pro and Progress, and they're out and about week in, week out on the circuit. And to be able to train with them and work with people who are such a high level, it's such a massive learning opportunity for us, because we can learn from them in a kind of smaller training environment and pick up things from them. We all consider each other as friends now, which is, for me, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, 100%, absolutely. And we've had Mike Angus get in touch, good friend of the show,
Hello, yes.
and ring announcer extraordinaire. Hope you both have a lovely Christmas. Great to hear the positivity from Aluna Blue. Always been brilliant and professional when working with us. Keep up the hard work. And have you faced Harley Hudson yet? So I know Harley, like I say, doing some great stuff in the northwest of the UK. She was at the New Mercy show in South Wales this past Sunday on the same card as yourself, facing the brilliant James Ellis.
Yes.
Absolutely. We'll talk a bit about him later on. But have you faced Harley Hudson yet? And I'm guessing, would you like to if you haven't?
So I haven't faced Harley Hudson yet. Again, we've been kind of similar with Aurora Tevez. We've been on slightly different circuits. And I haven't faced her. To be honest, I would absolutely love to. She's a real, she's a superstar. She's an up and coming superstar. What she can do. I've seen her a couple of times now. And what she can do in the ring is brilliant. And I really look forward to having a match with her if that was something that could happen.
Absolutely. And at least you're guaranteed if you've got Aluna Blue and Harley Hudson in the ring together, you're not going to get a clash of colours, are you?
We're never going to have a clash of colours.
You're not going to have a clash of colours.
No.
Most definitely not. She's 9 stone of Scouse girl power. But absolutely fantastic. Love Harley. We had Harley on the show earlier on in the year. But thinking back to the Aluna Blue of early 2022 and the Aluna Blue of now, how do you think you've grown as a wrestler, grown as a performer? What would you say were the differences that you've noticed, or maybe that other people have noticed about you as an overall performer in them 12 months?
So I think the main thing for me, and I've had this quite a few times over the past couple of weeks, and it's so lovely to hear from people. So I've had a couple of people say to me, oh, your confidence in the ring, like on your entrance and when you're in the ring in general, it has grown massively. Someone said to me the other day, oh, you've got the wrestling glow. And I was like, oh, that's lovely. That's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. But yeah, I think for me, it's got to be confidence. And that I do, credit the team at New Wave for that, because they've massively, massively helped my confidence. I think when I first started, I was, a little bit nervous, and I was always probably one of the last people to get in the ring to do drills, and I wasn't really sure about what I was doing. And now I'll happily get in first, and I've got a much more kind of give it a go, attitude now, and that's what I definitely credit those guys for. So I think that the main thing that has improved and has helped me along the way is having a big boost in confidence.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to get to it. So a little while ago, we met in Cardiff at the Tram Shed, and you said, Johners, I've got an interesting story about how I got into the business, or how I found wrestling, or how wrestling found me. So I've been intrigued all this time, and I've not asked you up until now
you haven't,
what this is.
No.
I've been very, very good. So please enlighten us. How did you find wrestling, or how did wrestling find you? Tell us.
Okay, so my kind of how I got into wrestling story, I guess it's slightly different to most people. My wrestling story doesn't really involve WWE, which kind of makes it a little bit different. So most people have, they've seen WWE as a kid, they've watched it as a kid, or they've played the video games, or they've maybe got older siblings who have been into it and then have got them into it down the line. For me, that wasn't the case at all. Wrestling didn't exist for me. I'd never heard of it. I didn't know what it was. Very embarrassingly, and people do take the mickey out of me for this all the time now, my wrestling knowledge of WWE is actually quite limited, very embarrassingly, because it's just not something that I've ever really watched. I've got a younger sister. We didn't watch wrestling growing up. We didn't watch WWE at all. So I didn't really know what it was for a very long time. And then I was probably in my, I'd say, early 20s. And a very good friend of mine, he was really into wrestling. And he sort of got me into it. But it wasn't the WWE and pay-per-views. I didn't know what WrestleMania was. Had no idea. It wasn't that side of things that he introduced me to. It was UK live wrestling. And for me, that's my thing. That's what I love. So we went to a local wrestling show. It was at like my local community centre. It was just on a Saturday night. Had absolutely no idea what to expect. Had never seen it before. Didn't know what it was. And he was like, "Oh, let's go and watch it. I'm really into it. Like, I want to take you along." And I was like, "Okay, let's do it. Let's give it a go." So it was Evolution in Gloucester. And we went to my local community centre, and obviously they had the ring set up, and they had the entrance, and it was, that the production was really decent. And the show started, and I was like, that instantly. I was like, oh, wow. I was just drawn into it. And it was, I did musical theatre at school, so I kind of got it. I got the performance side of it. And I just fell in love instantly with the moves and the characters and like the goodies and the baddies and the crowd involvement and obviously like the crazy moves and the costumes. I just loved it. And I was like, where has this been? Like, what is this? This is amazing. So we watched the show, and it was all male wrestlers up until the point of the female match. There was a women's division match, and I was like, women do this too? Like, what? It was the coolest thing to see, two girls having a wrestling match. And I was just absolutely hooked. I was mesmerized by this show. And I went and spoke to the girls afterwards, and I was like, how on earth do you get into this? Like, I knew just from watching that one show that I wanted to do it. I was like, I've got to give this a go. I didn't know how. I had no idea, but I was like, I've just got to try it. So both of them said, like, get yourself down to your local training school and kind of go from there. And I was like, there's a training school for this? Like, wow, I didn't know. I had no idea. I was so naive to it. And so I obviously went home and started doing a little bit of research on, wrestling, how to get into it, learning who some of like the UK stars were. Started watching some WWE by this point. So my first WrestleMania that I'd watched was actually Triple H versus Roman Reigns. So it was quite recent. And started kind of learning who some of the sort of the characters were on the UK scene. And I messaged Millie McKenzie and I messaged Candy Floss. They were the two girls that I messaged. And I didn't expect them to reply. I thought I wouldn't hear anything from them. And fair play to both of them. They both replied. And they both said exactly the same thing that the two girls had said at the Evolution show. Get yourself down to your local training school. And I was like, right, that's it. There's like 4 girls that have now said this to me. Like, this is what I've got to do. So I Googled training schools in the area that I live in. And I couldn't believe it. There was one like 20 minutes down the road from me. And I was like, what? It's been here all this time. So I messaged them and said, I don't know what I'm doing, but I really want to try this. Came to one of your shows, really enjoyed it. And it was Evolution. So it was the same promotion that I'd seen as my first show. And they actually have a training school in Gloucester. So I was like, let's do it. And I remember in my message, I said, because I was 22 when I sent the message, and I said, I'm 22. Am I too old to learn to wrestle? Right? Because again, had no idea. Didn't know.
If you don't know, you don't know, do you? Yeah.
No. Obviously now you can learn to wrestle at pretty much any age, and it's amazing. But I didn't know if it's something that you thought you had to learn as a kid, or had to start really young. And some people do, and some people don't. And they absolutely snapped my hand off. And they, they were like, oh my God, we really, really need some girls. Like, yes, please come and train with us. So I went along for my first training session completely on my own, didn't know what to expect. And, it was bumping and rolling and, your typical kind of first wrestling training session. And I walked away and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, I love this. And I don't think they expected me to go back because, as I say, I'm pretty tiny. We took a lot of bumps in that first session and, did lots of rolls and things. And I was quite unfit. I hadn't done any exercise for a really, really long time. And I remember waking up the next day and being like, oh, I can't move. Like, I was in agony the next day. And that's not me saying, don't learn to wrestle, because it is the best thing ever, learning to wrestle. But I did ache an awful lot the next day. I felt like I'd been hit by a bus because I hadn't done any exercise for a really long time. And, you know, when you start taking bumps, you have got to kind of get through that like threshold of learning to take bumps. And then when you do it, you know, for multiple times, it's all right. You know, you get used to it. But for that first time, I was like, oh, Jesus, I woke up the next day, didn't know what to do with myself. And I lived with my parents at the time. And I was like, okay, I can't tell them this. Like, I was trying really hard to hide it from them because I thought they'd laugh at me, because it's not something that we'd ever watched as a family or anything like that. And I kept going back to the training sessions and I was like, right, I'm going to do this. Like, I really enjoy this. And it got to about, I'd say, probably 6 weeks in, and I still hadn't told anybody. Hadn't told anybody at all that I was learning. Wow. Yeah, I hadn't told anybody that I was learning to wrestle because I was really, really nervous about what people would kind of think or say. And, you know, now I don't care. Like, most people think it's really cool now. Some people, you know, have their own opinions on it, but most people think it's really cool. But at the time, I didn't know how my parents would react at all. I thought they'd, you know, think I was being a complete idiot. So my dad found my knee pads, is how they found out. And my dad found my knee pads and he was like, what are you doing? Like, are you doing skateboarding or rollerblading or something? And I was like, no, it's professional wrestling. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, it's professional wrestling. And, you know, now, I mean, anybody that kind of follows me on my Instagram will know that my parents are absolute legends. They come to every single one of my shows. I don't know how they do it. I really don't. They both work full time. You know, they come to every single one of my shows, and they still think I'm completely bonkers, but they think it is the coolest thing ever. And they're so supportive, and it's amazing to have them at, you know, all of my shows. I get other wrestlers coming to me being like, your parents here again? And I'm like, yeah, they are. You know, they travel hundreds of miles, and it's not just me. You know, they've obviously got to know all the faces on the circuit now, and, you know, they're becoming like a bit of an attraction in themselves. People are like, oh, it's Mr. and Mrs. Blue, you know.
And they're hooks, you know, that you've turned them into massive wrestling fans, and they're your biggest supporters as well. Fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's absolutely sort of gone from there, really, you know.
What an incredible story. I absolutely love that. But fantastic. I've got to ask you, in conjunction with that then, how soon did you develop or come up with the personality of Aluna Blue? Well, what's the genesis of the name, the thought process behind kind of the gimmick and the character, the persona? Obviously it was in its infant stages at the very beginning compared to what it's grown to now, but give us a bit of an insight into how you come up with the Aluna Blue persona. Okay,
so I started training in probably around about August 2018, I think, and I had my first academy show match on the Boxing Day of that year. So I didn't really have that much time. It was quite soon, and that was amazing. Don't get me wrong. It was, you know, it was really cool to have a show that quickly, and it was sort of a training showcase show. And you know, the promoter said to me, "Oh, you know, you're going to need some gear and you're going to need like a name and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, I haven't thought about this. I have no idea what I'm going to do." So we were sort of, me and my parents were sort of brainstorming ideas, and obviously it's quite tricky because you don't want to kind of steal something that someone's already created for themselves. You know, you don't want to have a name that's completely similar to somebody else's if you can help it, just to avoid getting mixed up with people. You know, obviously take inspiration from other people, you know, that's amazing, but it's quite tricky to find something that is unique. So we were doing a bit of a brainstorm, and we were just coming up with all these names. And my mum's a primary school teacher, so she's kind of pretty creative, really. And literally, almost as cringy as it sounds, out of the blue, just like that, just came up with it. Wow. And I was like, where did that come from? She was like, oh, I've come up with this name. Like, what do you think? And I was like, at first, I wasn't keen. If I'm honest, I wasn't keen at first, and I was like, oh, I'm not really sure. And then I imagined a ring announcer saying my name as if I was going through the curtain and doing the entrance and everything. I imagined the ring announcer saying my name, and I was like, actually, yeah, do you know what? This could work. So I completely credit my mum for coming up with that name. And then, of course, with the kind of the blue as the surname, that then led into a kind of at least a color scheme anyway for some gear. And I didn't have time, so my first set of gear is kind of compared to my regular show gear that I wear now.
I'm going to put up a picture.
There you go.
There you go. There's this trend, then and now trend, and we're gonna. There we go. That's Aluna Blue, then and now. But there we go. Not a million miles off of.
No, it's not. You know, there are elements still there. There's a lot more glitter now. I've put on a lot of weight, which is good, and I wear fake tan now. So.
Absolutely. And we're going to talk more about your fantastic 2022 and some of the wonderful opponents that you've had. But to demonstrate to my audience, if they're fairly new to Aluna Blue, if you haven't cropped up on their radar so far, you've got a little music video, a little highlights video, haven't you? If I can cue it up here, and this will give you a taster of what Aluna Blue is all about and what a fantastic 2022 she has had. There we go. Well, thank you for allowing us to play that, and thank you for the effort that it went to actually getting that to me. So absolutely fantastic. But that really does demonstrate what a fantastic performer you've become in such a short space of time. The array of moves, the variety of offense, and the different styles there as well. And the tremendous array of opponents and talents that you've taken on in 2022. But before we talk about that, I want to put up a little snippet from an Instagram post that you put up maybe only a day or two ago. And I'm going to read it out here. My first year on the circuit, 2022 has been more than it ever could be. 47 main show matches this year, debuting for 24 promotions, starting at a new training school. I've had the opportunity to step in the ring with so many fantastic talents. I'll be going into 2023 with more incredible friends and mentors. So I think, I asked you in a nutshell to sum up your 2022, and that's kind of helped to, kind of cement your points there. But such a tremendous year, and a lot of promotions that you've debuted for.
Yes.
How is that kind of momentum? How did that momentum start? Because obviously, I think like a lot of people coming out of lockdown, bookings were slow. Things were kind of just, starting at a crawl pace, really a snail's pace, and then things started to snowball for a lot of people. But what about yourself? How did that momentum? How did the bookings start to pick up? And when did you first notice you kind of finding your feet and hitting your stride, so to speak?
So I think I knew at the sort of the back end of last year that I wanted to start branching out to a couple more promotions for this year. My original goal was to work for, I was working for Evolution in Gloucester, and my original goal was to work for 2 promotions this year, 2 additional promotions. That was the kind of little mini goal that I set myself at the start of this year. So I messaged Brendan White, who wasn't my trainer at the time, but obviously he is now. And I said, look, can I have some advice? How do I do this, getting out onto the circuit thing? What do I do? Because I was only working for 1 promotion at the time. And he very, very kindly went out of his way and gave me lots of advice and kind of tips and things that had, personally worked for him and things that he knew that had worked for other people. And I was like, right, okay, he's given me this advice. I'm going to take it on board and, let's give it a go and see what happens. So I, kind of took the advice that he'd given me and started messaging some promotions. And I started off kind of pretty local to the area that I'm in. And then I thought, no, do you know what? If I'm going to do this, let's go all out. Let's just send as many messages out as I possibly can, see what I get back. Didn't really expect to get much back because I thought, well, no one's ever heard of me. Like, I'm completely new. I'd had, I think, maybe 6 or 7 matches at the time. So I didn't really have that much footage to share with anybody. Or I didn't have an online presence at all. I don't think I had a social media really at that point. So I was like, right, nobody has heard of me. Let's go and give this a go. And I couldn't believe the response that I got back was insane. Like, I had quite a few promotions and they were like, oh, it's a woman. It's another woman that we don't know about. And I was like, great. So that for me was quite an eye-opener, actually, that, there are, again, being very new to the circuit, I didn't know. There are a lot more male talent than there are female talent on the circuit. And it was, for promoters, it was like, oh, it's another girl that we can use, and I'm sort of relatively, middle of the country-ish. So I'm quite, the area I'm in is quite accessible. So for me, it was brilliant. And I just, obviously, don't get me wrong, not every promotion that I sent messages out to responded. Some promotions responded a little bit later, maybe when, I'd had a few more matches. Some promotions came back to me and said, thanks, but no thanks, not at the moment, or our roster's full, or we're not looking to take any more talent on. But the response that I got back was pretty overwhelming, and it snowballed so quickly. I think in July, I had something like 9 matches or 9 shows in July. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, where did all this come from?
Yeah, absolutely. But what they knew they were getting for their money was this captivating, colourful, energetic, vibrant babyface. And, putting all that into one package is a great asset to have on their card. And but I mean, tell us a bit about Aluna Blue as a babyface, because I think I said at the top of the podcast, I think for the personality and the persona and the Aluna Blue that you bring to a show, loved by kids, you're loved by adults, you're loved by all ages, just so popular. And it's that babyface personality that just explodes out of the curtain and into the ring. And I think that's what's so captivating and exciting about you.
Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say. I think for me, the Aluna Blue character is an extension of me, and lots of wrestlers will say that. They'll say their kind of wrestling character is an extension of themselves. So I try and make the Aluna Blue character as as kind of excitable and as kind of happy and kind of happy-go-lucky as I possibly can, because that's me in wrestling in real life. I remember watching Boar and Brendan and Nico and Jay Joshua and Danny Luna, for Attack and for Dragon Pro, as a fan. And I remember getting a photo with Jay Joshua in the Frog and Fiddle in Cheltenham. It's like a little barn attached to a pub. And I sent it to my dad, and I was like, oh my God, I've just got a photo with Jay Joshua. Like, I was so excited. And like, I was training with him a week ago now. So, I try and bring the excitement that I still have as a wrestling trainee and as a wrestler. I love professional wrestling, as do all wrestlers. It's why we do it. And I try and bring that excitement to the ring as much as I can, and kind of show the fans, how much I do love it. And I think that's kind of where, all the kind of the sparkles and the glitter and, everything like that comes from. It's just trying to be as exciting as I can be, because I think the gear and, the first time you go through the curtain, whether a fan has seen you or not before, that's your first impression. There you go.
Yeah. What an impression you make. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That's their first impression of you. And, the sparkles, obviously, they catch the light and everything, and it's lovely. And the glitter literally.
Well, let's talk
gets
about the glitter.
everywhere.
We've got to talk about the glitter, because you told me a very funny story before we went live. I mean, let's bring up some pictures first of all. Obviously, there was the before and after, and obviously some fabulous more recent photos of Aluna Blue there. Obviously, you've got the jewellery, you've got the makeup and the signature blue lipstick, but there is an awful lot of glitter there, Aluna Blue, and I've seen one or two social media posts. It gets everywhere, doesn't it?
It does. It literally gets everywhere. I have had wrestlers message me and say, "Can you please explain to my family why there is blue glitter in my bed?" Like, it has got really, it's got to the point where it gets everywhere. Like, if you don't even have to wrestle me. If you've been on a show with me, it will be on you somewhere.
Amazing.
It gets everywhere, and it's. Sometimes I go back to venues that I haven't been to for 6 months, and I'll kind of go to like the women's changing area, or the area that I was changing in before, and it's still there. And I'm like, yeah, do you know what? That was me.
Oh, amazing. Absolutely amazing. And one of the reasons why I asked you to send me your music video, your highlights video, and the reason why I played that is because your moveset and your versatility in the ring, and like I say, your versatility in opponents, certainly this year. But what's really struck me about watching some of your matches this year, and your highlight video in particular, there's so much variety in your arsenal as well. It's some fast-paced stuff there. There's some high spots. There's striking. There's even, it appears to be a bit of a lucha influence as well. And some of the high spots, the Canadian Destroyer, the dives off the side of the ring, the moonsaults. You're definitely a talent that isn't afraid to try different styles. But tell us about your in-ring work, and where a lot of these, where this versatility and where this moveset comes from.
I think for me, because I've watched so much of the live kind of UK wrestling scene over the years, I kind of pick up on moves that I like doing, and also moves that the fans really enjoy seeing as well. And the moonsault for me was a particular move that I used to love as a fan watching a show. If someone did a moonsault, I didn't care if there were 6 moonsaults on a show. I was like, yes, that's the move. I love that move. And I think for me, that was the one that I really wanted to nail, because it took me forever to learn to do that move. I was terrified. I had people like stood behind me in like a kind of trust, like had their arms out in like a kind of trust thing, ready to catch me in case that it all went wrong. And it took me forever to learn it, but I think now it is one of those moves. You don't see that many girls doing moonsaults, and I think it's sometimes they don't always go to plan. Sometimes I think that particular shot ended up landing on Dale's head. Because we didn't quite get the placement right for it. But do you know what? We're friends. It was okay. He was fine. I was fine. Sometimes it doesn't quite go to plan, but it's always a move that the fans absolutely love, and it's a safe move as well. If I'm going to land on you, I'm going to land on you safely. And it's I think it's, for me, to do moves that the fans really enjoy. That does, it is nice, and it's not necessarily about the pop or anything like that. It's just a moment for the fans to go, yeah, you know what, I like that, I appreciate that. That was good skill or good acrobatics. And same thing for the dives and the the kind of the suicide dives, or the dives off the turnbuckle. It's you've got to put trust in someone to catch you at the end of the day, and you've also got to know how to land it in case it doesn't quite go to plan. And it is that kind of adrenaline rush, I think, when you're doing it as well. It's like, oh, this has got to work. So for me, it's the adrenaline, and it's the moves that I think the fans enjoy, and that I personally enjoy watching as a fan. If I see it on a show, I'm like, yeah, do you know what, I respect that.
Yeah. And the other thing that really struck me was you can really get fired up as a babyface as well. You've
Thank
got
you.
tremendous kind of fire, tremendous fight back, especially when your back's up against the wall and you come out fighting. And we've explained about all the high spots and wonderful moves that you can do, the moonsault, the dive, the destroyer, and all the wonderful things. But you know how to throw hands as well. And when you need to get, a ground and pound, Aluna,
Yeah.
you certainly know how to do that. And I think that adds another dimension to your character, because not only are you this, very infectious babyface personality, but like I say, when your back's up against the wall, you can fight when you need to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the fans, they love to see that. If you're in sort of the heat portion of the match, and you've got the heel that's really beating down on the babyface, when the babyface starts to come up, it really gives the fans something to get behind, and that for me is fantastic. When you start hearing them come up, and then it's like, right, they're with me now, we're gonna go, and then you do eventually, you get that, you have the fire, and you start, into your comeback. It is amazing, and it's genuine as well. It's that real buzz, and that the adrenaline's going, and it's fantastic to have that. I remember having my first ever kind of live match. I went back through the curtain afterwards, and I was so excited, and I was so hyped up because I'd just done, all the fiery babyface things, and I was so excited, and I just went, do you know what? I want to go out and do that again right now. Like, that's how much I loved it. And I think if now it's getting to the point where I'm enjoying it so much that every single time I go back through the curtain, I'm like, yeah, let's go again. I want to go and do that again.
100%. Absolutely. Let's have a look at some of your opponents and some of your highlights from this year. Then I'm going to bring up some pictures, and one lady in particular that you've had a handful of encounters with is L.A. Taylor.
Yes.
Whether it be for Southwest Wrestling or Pro Wrestling Carnage or Slam Masters, you're getting to know L.A. Taylor very, very well as an opponent. And I've seen one or two of the matches. And obviously, L.A. Taylor, 6 foot warrior against yourself. Sparkly sensation. And like I say, they're interesting matches because they're the dynamics between the two opponents, between yourself, between L.A. Taylor, and as we just explained, you have these kind of fiery babyface comebacks to counter her power and her strength. But fantastic matches and a great opponent. Another wrestler, another talent that's had a phenomenal 2022, by the way. But to tell us about some of your encounters with LA.
Oh, it's so much fun. Obviously, she's so much taller than me, and a lot bigger than me. So the dynamic of the size difference is always there. And when we wrestle, we go to war. We really do. Every single match that I've had with her has, been some of my favorites because she's an incredible performer. Obviously, she's just breaking out onto Progress as part of the Lana Austin experience. I've been very fortunate to wrestle Lana and Sky as well on separate occasions. And yeah, they're a mean trio.
Yeah, they certainly are. And let's just organize my graphics a bit better here. How about this young lady, Dani Luna, for New Wave Wrestling? And I think this may have been a very recent match, back end of November, the 25th November. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was Dani Luna's first match back since coming back on the UK Independent, and you were her first opponent.
So I was her first singles opponent. So she did kind of a multi-person match, I believe, the week before. But yes, so I was her first singles opponent back. And again, Dani was another one of my opponents where, I used to watch her many years ago for Attack and for Dragon Pro on the circuit. And, all of a sudden then I get to be in the ring with her, actually having a wrestling match. And that will never not be cool, to wrestle people that you've watched as a fan and, you absolutely adore watching, to suddenly be able to get a match with them, and for New Wave as well. So for our home promotion, and to be her first singles match back was, it was just mind blowing. It literally, when Brandon said to me, "Oh, you know, you're going to be against Danny Lee," and I was like, "Sorry, what? Really?" And he was like, "Yeah," and it was a dream match. Absolutely, it was. I couldn't have asked, you know, for a better opponent on that night, because she was incredible, and you know, like she always is, she absolutely killed it. We had a really, really great crowd that night. It was, you know, it was a decent crowd. She's obviously, you know, very well known and very well loved on the circuit. So to be able to wrestle her was, yeah, it was amazing. And it was a match that I'll always remember, definitely.
Brilliant, brilliant. We'll talk about a couple more opponents in a moment, but we've had Jim watching us via Facebook, and he says, "You are awesome." Simple as that.
Thank you very much.
You, Jim, for getting in touch. Thank you for watching. Keep getting your questions and comments in for Aluna Blue. And how about this young lady here then? Nina Samuels. And the reason why I'm bringing this match up is because it's in your hometown, Cheltenham, at the Frog and Fiddle, part of a fantastic card there. Now, this is the Southwest Wrestling's women's division, isn't it? The Warriors division, if I'm not mistaken. And there you were, kind of featured on the main poster there, next to your opponent. And there you are. Possibly before or after the match, but
that was after. There's less glitter.
Well, good point. What did it mean to you to face a former WWE NXT UK talent in Nina Samuels in your hometown, the Frog and Fiddle? I'm guessing in front of lots of friends and family that have come out to support you for that match. A fantastic experience for you against another wonderful UK talent.
Yes, definitely. So again, when I found out that I had Nina on that show, I remember literally sitting on my living room floor, and I looked at my phone and I was like, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god!" And my dad was like, "What on earth is the matter?" And I was like, "Look!" And I showed him my phone, and he was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." You know, we'd watched NXT UK when it was still going, so you know he knew who Nina was, and I think. For me to be able, as someone who's still, you know, super new on the circuit, really, to be able to wrestle someone like Nina, who's got so much experience and, you know, has wrestled all over the place and in, you know, many different countries as well, to be able to wrestle someone who is more experienced than you is, again, it's a huge learning opportunity, because I think wrestling someone with more experience brings out the better in you as a performer. And to have that match, you know, in kind of what I guess I class as my sort of home venue, you know, it's in Cheltenham. It's where I started watching independent wrestling. To have a match in that venue in front of, you know, people who knew I was from that town as well, is amazing. You know, the crowd really got behind me, and obviously being the amazing heel that she is, she played on that. It was great. It was great fun. And, you know, she gave me some wonderful feedback after the match as well. And the promoter really enjoyed it, and the fans really enjoyed it. So yeah, that match again is another one that I will definitely remember.
Absolutely. Now we're going to flash up a few pictures of other opponents that you've had this year, and we'll talk about them collectively in a minute. But that's a rather stiff punch there from Lana. We spoke a bit about Lana just a moment ago, and then you've had matches against Chantel Jordan, and that's a young lady that definitely knows how to hit hard with her strikes and her kicks. There's a picture of the two of you after one of your matches. LDM, Laura Di Matteo, for yourself against yourself for Ignite there. And of course the wonderful Nadia Sapphire there, matching color coordination there. I don't know if you phoned each other before the show, say this is what I'm wearing, what are you wearing, but you color coordinated perfectly there. Then, of course, Zaya Brookside. What a fantastic talent for Evolution there, early on in the year in March. And then, of course, making your Rev Pro debut only a couple of months ago in October. What a fantastic opportunity. But that also kind of demonstrates what a wonderful year you've had, and so many amazing opponents and opportunities.
Oh, definitely. Like, even, you know, putting those graphics up there, it's like, wow, I wrestled some really awesome people this year. You know, all of those matches are matches that I didn't ever think would happen this year. You know, obviously to be able to debut for Rev Pro, that's not something that I thought would happen this year. And, you know, very, very excited and very grateful that it did. Same thing with Chaos as well. I didn't expect to make a debut for Chaos this year, but to be part of their women's tournament and get to wrestle 2/3 of the Lana Austin experience there was, again, another fantastic opportunity. This year has definitely been, a year of opportunities for me. I've tried to, take every single one and really enjoy it and have fun, because that's why we do this at the end of the day, because we want to have fun and because we love it so much. And yeah, this year has just been, more than I ever could have hoped for, really. And it's been so exciting, and I can't wait for next year. I literally cannot wait for next year. I've got like 2-3 weeks off wrestling now, and I'm like, right, I want to go.
There you go. Give it a couple of days, and you'll be chomping at the bit to get back in that ring. I'm sure. I'm sure.
I want to do it already.
But we spoke at the top of the show about the guys, and you love to mix it up in the ring with male talent as much as female talent. I think you explained that Evolution, when you first started training, you were the only female kind of recruit, the only female trainee. So you started off pretty much as an intergender wrestler, wrestling just guys. But some of the talent that you have wrestled this year, we've already mentioned the moonsault that you landed on Dale Johnson there, and there's the graphic there. One gentleman that I was going to talk about was a certain the brilliant James Ellis,
Mr. Good as Gold.
He's good as gold, and he is setting the South Wales wrestling scene alight. Such an extraordinary talent, both in the ring and behind a microphone. I've interviewed him a few times backstage, and he's literally just taken the microphone from me and just gone.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
There's no standing in his way when he's got a microphone in his hand.
No.
But you never actually had the opportunity to wrestle James, did you? I think you said that you might have been advertised to wrestle him a few times, and it just hasn't happened yet.
That's right. Yeah. So James and I believe we're supposed to have wrestled 3 times now, but unfortunately, due to various reasons, availability and illness, neither of us have actually worked each other yet. I don't know if that's a good sign. I don't know if it's now going to be bad luck for us to work each other. I don't know. But James is an extraordinary talent, and I train with him at New Wave. This year has been a fantastic year for him, and it's only going to get better next year. He's really, he's an excellent baby face, and he's an even better heel. And hopefully, next year is going to be, equally as good, if not better, for him.
Absolutely. And we mentioned him briefly earlier, but Jay Joshua, and he really came onto my radar when UK Wrestling came back in the summer of 2021. And here's you facing Jay Joshua. I'm guessing, looking at the venue, that has to be No Mercy again.
That was indeed No Mercy. I love that match. He's such a lovable guy, kind of outside the ring, and obviously inside the ring, he's, a fantastic worker, very, very safe, really knows what he's doing, and he really, really looked after me in there. But he's so inventive with his moveset, and, with moves that that he could sort of give to me to try in the match. Half the stuff he got me to do I'd never seen before. But it was amazing because he just, he really helped me out with it, and the match was really enjoyable. And I believe we were the only intergender match on the show, so I don't think the fans were kind of quite sure what to expect. But they ended up loving it, because we just got all these really cool moves in and told a bit of a story with it as well. And hopefully the fans really enjoyed it. I know we definitely did.
Absolutely. Now I'm going to flash up one more picture and tell us a bit about this, because there's Aluna Blue there with a championship belt, and that looks like a very beautiful championship belt. I'm guessing for Evolution Wrestling, but that would have been 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. But that must be something that you're very proud of, even through to today.
Yes, definitely. So that is the Evolution Wrestling Next Gen or Academy Championship. And I won that in probably around about October time last year. And it was my first and only championship win. And it was such a cool experience to, be able to have that, literally that that photo sums up the emotions in that moment. You know, you've been training for, you know, years, and you suddenly the promoter recognizes, you know, the fact that you've put all the hard work in, and you go out and you know, you beat your opponent.
Yeah.
It's amazing, you know, and that match for me really meant a lot, because it was, like I said, first and only at the moment championship win. But I loved it to have, and that was an intergender match as well. And the guy I was against, he was, you know, super duper heel. The crowd absolutely hated him, and they really came up for me, which was, it was lovely. And the reaction, everyone was on their feet when I won that belt. That meant an awful lot.
Absolutely. I'm going to have a little bit of fun with you now, because obviously you think about ultimate baby faces over the years. John Cena, Hulk Hogan, for example, and one or two others. Roman Reigns was the ultimate baby face. Aluna Blue, the ultimate baby face. What might happen down the future when somebody really ticks you off, Aluna? Could there be, let's say, the best heels come from the greatest baby faces? You know where I'm heading here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anytime soon. And like I say, may your baby face run continue for a long time. But could there possibly be a heel Aluna Blue sometime in the future?
It's something, don't get me wrong, it's something I would definitely, I'd be interested to see how it could go. It's not something at the moment I kind of exclusively work as a babyface.
Absolutely.
Through personal choice, to be honest. It is personal choice. But I get quite a few people saying to me, and I promise you're not the first person to say, oh, you know, you're going to turn heel. Someone suggested to me, oh, you know, if you turn heel, you've got to be a Lunar Navy. I was like, okay. But, you know, I think having worked with so many incredible heels this year, you know, they really get the crowd to hate them.
Yeah,
they really do.
I know you'd find that difficult.
I would.
You know where, like I say, the ultimate baby
though.
face. Like I say, it just takes one kind of, you know, I'm not sure how you would do it, but when it happens, it would take the wrestling world by storm, I'm sure.
It would take me by storm, to be honest.
Right, we're going to end with a couple of questions that came through before we went live. Let me bring them up here. This is my good friend of the show, Richie, via Facebook. Who's been your favourite opponent or favourite opponents in 2022? Good question there, Richie.
Brilliant question. Thank you for your question. So my favourite opponent that I've worked this year, and we've already mentioned her. My favourite opponent has got to be LA Taylor. You know, we've worked a few times now at various promotions, and every time, you know, we've got chemistry in the ring. Every time that we work each other, we seem to, you know, our matches seem to get well, I personally would hope that they seem to get better. You know, we've got that chemistry. We kind of have quite intense matches.
Yeah.
You know, I think, you know, she's been fantastic this year in her own right, and for me to wrestle her, every time I get the opportunity to wrestle her, I'm always very, very excited, because I know that we're gonna have a really, really fun match, and the dynamic there definitely works for both of us. So I think my favourite opponent has been LA Taylor.
Brilliant. And like I say, you faced a wide variety of opponents in 2022, but
Yes.
Richie sends us a second question. Who would you like to face in 2023? If you could pick, you know, 2 or 3 wrestlers you've never wrestled before, do you have a bit of a Cody Rhodes style wish list of wrestlers that you want to face in the future, and maybe in 2023, Aluna?
So I do. I think every wrestler has, you know, a bit of a wish list of who they'd like to face. And one particular wrestler who I would really like to face would be Sapphire Reed. I'd really like to work with Sapphire. We haven't worked each other yet. I would really like to work her. So she's someone that she's definitely on my radar for. I'm hoping a match card's going to come out one day that we get to work each other. Someone else that I think I would really like to work this year would probably be Nico Angelo. He's one of my, part of the training team at New Wave. Whether he'd do an intergender match, I don't know. That's something we have to find out. But I really think that we definitely have his style has changed in the years that I've been watching him. He's still very kind of flippy as a wrestler, but he's also got a very powerful moveset now. And I think the combination of both of our movesets, could work quite nicely. So Nico's definitely someone that I would like to face next year. Whether it, is a match that could be booked, I don't know.
No, you've put it out there into the universe. It's going to happen, isn't it?
I don't know.
But a couple of good choices there. Any more, just for Richie?
Who else would I like to face next year? I think probably because I haven't worked with them yet on a show, would probably be somebody like Jake Lennox, who is one of the trainees at New Wave. And he's kind of breaking out onto the circuit now. He's worked for Cornish Pro Wrestling, and he's worked for Black Country Championship Wrestling as well. But I trained with him at New Wave. And again, I think our movesets could definitely work to make a really fun match.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for answering that. And thank you, Richie, for watching and sending in your questions. Very soon, we're going to be wrapping up this special Christmas edition, special Christmas interview with Aluna Blue. And we'll be asking you for your socials very, very soon. But as I promised at the beginning of this episode, I'm going to be announcing who my guests are going to be for January 2023. So there's still one in the pipeline that I might have to surprise you on social media when I get confirmation. But don't forget, at the end of this month, I've got part 2. Now let's bring up the graphic of my exotic Adrian Street and Miss Linda interview. And part 1 is out there already, so please go and check that out on whichever podcast platforms you use, or go and check it out on YouTube for the full video version. But in January, my first guest is going to be none other than the Wrestle Carnival Women's Champion, Jetta. Jetta will be joining me on Tuesday, the 3rd of January, 2023, my first guest of the new year, a legend of the UK scene, and been in the business for a number of years. And we're going to be talking everything Jetta on January the 3rd. That's going to be a fantastic live interview that you're not going to want to miss. And a gentleman that we've mentioned once or twice already today, but the brilliant James Ellis will be joining me on the Wrestling with Johners podcast Tuesday, the 10th of January, 8 p.m. UK time. And he'll be telling you why he's the brilliance and why he is as good as gold. But James Ellis, we mentioned earlier, Luna, one of the biggest up-and-coming names from the South Wales scene, and that's going to be fantastic to talk to him. And then we got this gentleman here, Truman Roswell. He'll be joining me the following Tuesday. They all seem to be Tuesday interviews, Tuesday the 17th of January. I'd say Truman thinks that there's a big conspiracy theory, and there's a lot to talk about there, including aliens and various conspiracy theories. But Truman Roswell will be joining me live on the podcast as one of my guests in January, Tuesday the 17th there. And my final confirmed guest for the month of January is none other than this gentleman here, Cara Noir. Amazing. Tom Dawkins will be joining me live on the Wrestling with Johners podcast Monday the 30th of January, 8 p.m. UK time. And Tom will be joining me to talk all about his fantastic career, all about Cara Noir, all about the latest happenings in progress and further afield. And that is going to be a top guest for January the 30th, 2023, when Tom Dawkins, Cara Noir, joins me live on Wrestling with Johners. So not bad there, really. Some good guests to look forward to. Luna, it's been absolutely fantastic talking to you for an hour and a quarter now. And like I said to you, time will fly in these interviews. They certainly have. But I'm going to bring up the little ticker with all of your socials. But for any of my listeners, followers, people that are watching you right now, if they want to get in touch with you on your various social platforms, if they want to say hi, reach out, watch some of your stuff, or maybe buy some of your merch, where can they do so? And there we go, as promised. The floor is yours, Aluna.
Lovely. Thank you very much. So I'm on Instagram. So my handle is at Aluna Blue _res. And I'm also on Facebook as Aluna Blue Wrestler. I'm not on Twitter, unfortunately. I personal choice to avoid Twitter.
Yeah.
But yes, Instagram and Facebook. If anybody would like to get in contact, please drop me a message.
Absolutely fantastic. And before we go, if you've got a message for your fans, for your followers, for your friends that have supported you over the last 12 months and beyond, and maybe a message about what we can expect for 2023, just to finish off this lovely interview with yourself, what would you like to tell people out there as a thank you and a parting message for this episode of Wrestling with Johners?
So anybody who has, visited a show that I've been on, anybody that I've trained with, any promoter who has very kindly booked me, anyone who's crewed at a show, that I've been on, you will make it happen. I wouldn't be Aluna Blue without any of you. And that's the same for any other wrestler on the circuit. We wouldn't be able to do this without the people who support us, friends and family as well. So thank you to every single one of you who have shown us and shown me support over this past year. I couldn't have done it without any of you. And it honestly, it really, really does mean the world. So thank you very much. And Jonas, thank you for having me on your show today. Very much appreciated. Thank you to anybody who's tuned in to give up your, part of your Wednesday evening to listen to me talk about wrestling. Again, it's very much appreciated. And Merry Christmas to you all.
Absolutely. And I neglected to ask, is there merch out there? Do you have merch that my listeners, I think I've got some pictures, maybe some T-shirts and some 8x10s. Yes. So where can they go to get their hands on some Aluna Blue merch?
So you can go to Aluna Blue bigcartel.com. So that is my, it's in my Instagram bio is the link. And I've got T-shirts in all different sizes and kid sizes as well. I've got various prints available, stickers, shiny ones, obviously, because it's me.
Absolutely.
And it's all available to buy online or at a show if you're at a show that I'm on.
Absolutely. And I'm just going to bring up one more graphic. Book Aluna Blue now. That's all I can say is if there's any wrestlers or promoters watching, get Aluna Blue on your show in 2023. As we've more than established in this wonderful interview, you will not be disappointed. But Aluna Blue, thank you so much for being a wonderful guest. And I look forward to catching up with you at the shows in 2023.
Thank you very much. No, same as you. Thank you. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.